In a Russian hospital, a stroke patient is handed a nasal spray. Not a pill, not an IV drip, a spray up the nose. The idea is that it might help the brain recover. It's called Semax. And outside Russia, most doctors have never even heard the name. So what is Semax? How does a squirt up the nose end up used for something as serious as a stroke? And why has the rest of the world barely tested a drug that one country has trusted for decades? The story starts with a stress hormone. Your body makes a hormone called ACTH. It helps run your response to stress. Now, ACTH is a long chain, and decades ago, scientists noticed something strange about the middle of that chain. One little stretch, the piece labeled 4 to 10, didn't seem to do the hormonal stress gland stuff at all. Instead, it seemed to touch the brain, learning, memory, attention. The hormone part and the brain part appeared to live in different sections of the same molecule. So researchers asked the obvious question, what if you keep only the brain active piece and drop the hormone piece entirely? The people who answered that were in Moscow, at the Institute of Molecular Genetics, part of the Russian Academy of Sciences, the same two names behind a whole family of Russian brain peptides, Nikolai Myasodov and Igor Ashmarin. Back in 1982, their teams took that brain-active fragment, ACTH 4 to 10, and rebuilt it. Like a lot of raw peptides, it fell apart in the body far too fast to be useful. So they added a small protective tail of 3 amino acids, the little building blocks of proteins. That tail did 2 jobs. It stopped the molecule being destroyed so quickly, and it seemed to add calming, protective effects of its own. The finished peptide was Semax. So what does it actually do inside a brain? In the year 2006, a research team led by Dolatov published a striking finding. When they gave Semax to rats, levels of something called BDNF went up. BDNF stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of it as fertilizer for brain cells. It helps neurons survive, grow, and form new connections. More BDNF is exactly what a bruised, injured brain might need to heal, and that's the whole theory behind Semax. Not to sedate you, not to stimulate you, but to help the brain protect and repair itself. It's a genuinely elegant idea. Instead of forcing a change with a heavy drug, you hand the brain a little more of a signal it already uses to look after its own cells. Whether that idea truly delivers in a human being is a separate question. But the logic is clean, which brings us back to that stroke patient. A stroke is when blood flow to part of the brain is cut off and brain tissue starts to die. Every minute counts. Anything that might shield those neurons is worth a look. As far back as 1997, Russian researchers Gusev and Skvortsova reported using Semax during the acute phase of ischemic stroke. They described better neurological recovery in treated patients. On the strength of work like that, Semax became a registered, prescribed medicine in Russia for stroke, for brain circulation problems, for disorders of attention and memory. A real drug in real pharmacies in one country. So why the skepticism? Same catch as so many of these peptides. Almost the entire evidence base is Russian. Russian teams, Russian journals, Russian patients, and science only trusts a result once other labs in other countries can reproduce it. That outside confirmation for Semax is thin. The trials also tend to be small and older and hard for Western reviewers to fully check. So a treatment that looks established on one side of a border looks unproven on the other. Let's be clear about where it stands. In Russia, Semax is an approved prescription medicine. Elsewhere, it is not. It has not been approved by the United States Food and Drug Administration or by Health Canada. What sells online in the West is an unregulated research chemical, marketed for focus and memory, not a tested medicine. This is a science story, not medical advice. Nobody here is telling you to use it or how. The fascinating part isn't the label, it's the pattern behind it, because you may notice something familiar here. The same institute, the same 2 scientists, Myasodov and Ashmarin. Semax for the brain and stroke, and its close relative, Selank, for anxiety. 2 peptides, 1 Russian lab, 1 quietly built family of brain drugs that the rest of the world mostly ignored. That's not a coincidence. It's a whole research tradition, an entire approach to the brain developed behind a border that Western medicine barely engaged with. So, back to that spray in the stroke ward, trusted enough to prescribe in one country, unknown enough to baffle doctors in another. It isn't obviously miraculous. It isn't obviously nothing. It's simply barely tested where most of us live, which leaves the real question hanging. doesn't it? Semax and Solank came from the very same lab, the very same minds. So what exactly was that Russian institute building? And did the world miss something real or dodge a bullet? That's the story we'll open up next. Thanks for watching Brainstorm Bob. If this made you think, hit subscribe for more curiosity, ideas, and real answers. See you in the next one.